They said no part of the medieval world was more dangerous than the underground dugouts carved beneath the king's fortress tunnels once used for smuggling, espionage, and whispered sins. But for Ilara, the duke's daughter, those tunnels were her only escape from a life chosen for her. She discovered the entrance accidentally, the loose stone beneath the tapestry, the cold breath of earth whispering from below. What she never expected was him, Iden, the king's shadow knight, known for his silence, feared for his skill, loyal only to the crown. He caught her the first night she slipped into the tunnels, his hand gripping her wrist, his blade hovering near her throat. But instead of dragging her to the king, he released her. "Go," he murmured. One word, soft, dangerous. Her heartbeat betrayed her. The next night, she returned, and he was already waiting. Those hidden dugouts, carved to protect the kingdom, had just become the birthplace of a forbidden romance. And though neither of them knew it yet, the secrets buried beneath the castle would soon rise, threatening to expose the one thing more dangerous than treason: their desire for each other. Ilara knew she should stay away. Iden was forbidden in every sense, a knight sworn to the king, a man raised in battle, not affection, and worst of all, the one person who could ruin her with a single word. But the underground carried a strange magic. Down there, neither noble nor knight mattered. Only two hearts beating in a darkness that felt safer than the sunlit world above. Iden showed her the hidden chambers, dugouts once used for romance between forbidden lovers centuries ago. Small alcoves carved into the earth, stone benches smoothed by years of stolen kisses, torches that still smelled of ancient smoke. "These tunnels witnessed love," Ilara whispered. "And betrayal," Iden replied. Their steps echoed softly. He walked ahead, but his eyes kept drifting back to her, as if he feared losing her to the shadows. When her foot slipped on loose gravel, he caught her waist. She gasped. He didn't let go. "Ilara," he murmured, "you shouldn't be here." "Then why are you?" she breathed. Iden said nothing, but his hands answered, tightening around her, not pushing her away. The tunnels had seen many secrets. Tonight, they witnessed the beginning of a dangerous one. Iden taught her how sound moved underground, how a whisper could carry, how footsteps could betray. She learned quickly, fascinated by the way his hands shaped silent instructions. One night, as they explored deeper chambers, the torchlight flickered violently, shadows stretching across the carved walls like reaching hands. "Do you hear that?" Ilara signed, remembering his lessons. Iden nodded. Footsteps. Multiple. Iden blew out the torch instantly, pulling her into a narrow crevice. The darkness swallowed them whole. His body pressed against hers as the patrol passed. Ilara couldn't breathe, not from fear, but from the warmth of his breath at her ear. His heartbeat thundered against her chest. When the footsteps faded, he didn't move. Neither did she. "Iden," her whisper tasted like danger. His hand slid from the wall to her waist, steady and slow, as if asking permission. She didn't pull away. But then, "We can't," he muttered, stepping back abruptly. "You are promised to another." Her chest tightened. "Promised doesn't mean chosen." He closed his eyes, tension carving through him. The dugouts held ancient passion, but they also held the power to destroy anyone who dared feel it again. Ilara discovered an old map hidden inside a stone crevice, a parchment describing the original purpose of the dugouts. Not escape routes, not war shelters, but meeting chambers for forbidden couples during times of arranged marriages. A sanctuary for those who weren't allowed to love. She ran to Iden, breathless, showing him the map. His eyes widened, tracing the faded ink with reverence. "These tunnels," he whispered, "were built for people like us. Us." The word struck her like lightning, but before she could respond, Aiden's expression hardened. "This place is dangerous," he said. "People disappeared here." Disappeared? Some lovers were caught. The king's ancestors didn't forgive betrayal. He touched the cold wall. "These stones remember blood." Ilara stepped closer, her fingers brushing his hand. "And yet, people still risked everything for love." Aiden's jaw tightened. "And many died for it." She didn't care. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen, not by duty, not by her family, but by fate. And fate had carved these tunnels with intent. But fate also demanded a price. In the world above, Iden barely looked at her, a knight guarding his secret. But below, the world shifted. Silence became language. Distance became impossible. She arrived before him one night, sitting on the stone bench. Iden froze when he saw her, as if battling something inside himself. "You shouldn't wait for me," he said quietly. "Then stop coming," she whispered. He didn't reply. He didn't need to. When he sat beside her, she felt the heat of him, dangerous, alive. Her fingers brushed his hand. He flinched, then intertwined their fingers slowly, deliberately. "Elara," he whispered, "I've guarded kings. I've guarded crowns. But I cannot guard my heart from you." She leaned her head against his shoulder, and he didn't pull away. His arm wrapped around her waist, tentative at first, then claiming. Their breaths synced. The ancient dugouts, once home to forbidden lovers, welcomed another secret into their depths. But secrets never stay buried. Not in a castle full of spies. Not in tunnels that carried every sound. Not when hearts grew louder than footsteps. The next night, Iden didn't come. Elara waited and waited. Her breath turned cold in the silent tunnels. Then she heard voices, whispers echoing through the passage. "Someone's been using the dugouts again. Noblewoman, they say. If the king finds out." Alara's blood ran cold. They knew. She backed away, heart racing, when a shadow fell across her. Iden. But his expression wasn't soft tonight. It was terrified. "Elara," he whispered urgently. "You've been seen." She swallowed hard. "By who?" "I don't know, but someone followed you." Her mind spun. If anyone learned the truth about her and Iden, he would be executed for touching a noblewoman, not to mention the political scandal her arranged marriage would implode into. Iden grabbed her shoulders. "You cannot come down here again." She shook her head violently. "No, this is our place. Elara, listen. This is the only place I feel alive." His eyes softened, but fear still clouded them. "If anything happens to you, I will burn this whole kingdom down." She had known he cared, but she didn't expect him to care enough to become a threat to the crown. A storm raged above the castle, thunder shaking the earth. Elara slipped back into the tunnels despite Aiden's warnings. He was already there, breathless, soaked, pacing like a man fighting his own heart. When he saw her, something inside him snapped. "What are you doing?" he whispered harshly. "Choosing," she said, stepping closer. Lightning cracked above, illuminating the chamber. Aiden's breath shuddered. "Don't make me want what I cannot have." "Then don't want it," she whispered. "Elara." She placed her hand on his chest. His heartbeat pounded beneath her fingertips. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, his hand lifted to her cheek. "Say something," she whispered. "I can't." But he could act. His lips crashed against hers, not gentle, not hesitant, but years of buried longing unleashed in one forbidden kiss. Elara melted into him, her arms winding around his neck as he pressed her against the stone wall, his breath ragged, his control unraveling. When they finally pulled apart, both trembling, Den whispered, "This will destroy us." She touched his jaw. "Then let it." But fate was already listening. The next morning, the king summoned Iden. His tone was cold, his eyes colder. "Someone is sneaking into the underground dugouts," the king said. Iden kept his face stone still. "I trust you're not involved?" "No, your majesty." A lie. And Iden had never lied to his king before. The king's gaze sharpened. "There are rumors of a noblewoman engaging in inappropriate meetings. I want names." Aiden's fist clenched. "What punishment will she face?" "Execution." Aiden's blood froze. "And the man?" "Hanged." He bowed stiffly and left before emotion betrayed him. Elara waited in the gardens, expecting his touch, his smile, anything, but Iden walked past her without a glance. Her heart tightened. That night, she returned to the tunnels. He was there, waiting, but his face was hollow. "Elara, we must end this." Her breath cracked. "No, it's the only way to save you." She stepped forward. He stepped back. He lifted her hand to his lips one last time, a kiss full of everything he couldn't say. Then he walked away, leaving her alone in the darkness their love had awakened. 3 days passed. Elara didn't return to the tunnels. Neither did Iden. But the silence broke when the earth shook violently. A collapse. The king ordered his guards to investigate, and Elara's heart dropped. If they found evidence of her and Iden, it was over. Ignoring every rule, she ran to the entrance beneath the tapestry. Smoke and dust filled the air. Torchlight flickered, and there, half buried under fallen stone, was Iden. "Elara," he rasped. She fell to her knees, crying silently as she dug him out with shaking hands. He winced but helped her push away the rubble. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered. "Neither should you." He laughed weakly and kissed her, desperate, hurting alive. Guards' voices echoed nearby. Iden pulled back suddenly. "You have to go. I won't leave you." "You must." He cupped her face. "If they find us together, we die." She shook her head, tears falling. "I don't care." But he did. He always had. Elara returned to the castle alone, her dress covered in dirt, her hands bleeding. The king saw her and narrowed his eyes. "Where have you been?" "Praying," she lied. His suspicion grew. "Your fiancé arrives tonight. You will behave as a future queen should." Her fiancé. She had nearly forgotten. A political marriage meant to secure alliances and destroy any chance she had with Iden. At the royal dinner, Iden arrived late, bandaged, pale. Their eyes met, a silent storm passing between them. Her fiancé noticed. "Does the lady know the knight well?" he asked sharply. Before Elara could answer, the king cut in. "The knight serves no one but me." Elara felt the sting in Aiden's silence. Not even allowed to defend her. Not even allowed to exist beside her. But when she excused herself, he followed just long enough to say, "Elara, tomorrow, I leave. Far from this kingdom." Her heart shattered. What about us? There cannot be an us. But destiny was not done with them. Elara didn't sleep. At dawn, she ran to the tunnels one last time. Iden stood there, packed, armored, ready to disappear. "You came," he whispered. "Of course I did." She grabbed his hands. "You're leaving because of me." "I'm leaving because staying will kill us both." She shook her head, tears falling. "We survived betrayal, secrets, a collapse. Why not this?" He touched her cheek gently. "Elara, I love you." Her entire world stilled. Iden had broken every rule already, but those four words broke something much deeper. She threw her arms around him, their lips meeting in a kiss that tasted like goodbye and forever all at once. He held her as if trying to memorize her shape, her breath, her warmth. Then he pulled away. "If I stay, you die. If I leave, I suffer. Elara, let me suffer." "No," she whispered fiercely. "Let us live." But fate was cruel. Footsteps approached. A guard appeared, one loyal to her fiancé. He had followed her. He stared at Elara and Iden, shock turning into triumph. So the rumors were true. Den stepped in front of her instantly. "Go," he whispered. But Elara refused. "You will not report this," she said boldly. "You think you command me?" The guard sneered. "You're a fallen princess clinging to a traitor." Aiden's sword flashed, but Elara grabbed his arm. "No, if you kill him, you prove his words." The guard smirked. "You both will hang for this." But he didn't know the tunnels like they did. Iden pulled a lever hidden in the stone one Elara had never seen before. A secret escape route collapsed behind them, burying the guard under rubble. Elara gasped. "Iden, what have you done?" "Saved us," he breathed. "But now, we run." Elara and Iden sprinted through a part of the dugouts she had never seen. This wasn't a lover's chamber. This was an escape network built for kings fleeing assassination, and for lovers fleeing execution. Iden took her hand, pulling her close as the earth trembled again. "Almost there," he murmured. She had never heard his voice like this, soft, protective, desperate. They emerged into a forest on the far side of the kingdom. For the first time, the sun touched their faces together. Elara smiled through tears. "We're free." But freedom came at a cost. Behind them, alarms rang from the castle. They would be hunted, branded traitors, condemned by the crown. Iden turned to her, brushing dirt from her cheek. "Elara, if you stay with me now, you can never go back." She stepped closer, placing his hand over her heart. "I never belonged there. I belong here." His breath caught. "With you." They took refuge in an abandoned cottage deep in the woods. Iden tended her cuts. She tended his wounds. Life had never felt so fragile or so real. Days passed before the king's soldiers reached the forest. Iden stood at the doorway, sword ready. "Elara," Hide. No, she whispered, stepping beside him. We finish this together. The soldiers approached. Aiden raised his blade. But then, her fiancé emerged from behind the trees. I should kill you both, he said coldly. Aiden tightened his grip, but the fiancé simply sighed. The kingdom already believes you died in the collapse. If you leave, truly leave, I will not pursue you. Elara blinked in shock. Why spare us? Because a marriage built on politics is nothing compared to a love built on ruin. He turned away. Go. Before I change my mind. Elara and Aiden left the kingdom behind forever. They lived in a distant village, where no one knew her title or his oath, where their love didn't need tunnels to survive. But sometimes, at night, they returned to the forest entrance, the hidden passage where everything began. Aiden wrapped his arms around her from behind, his lips brushing her ear. Elara, he whispered, her name spoken with devotion, finally free. She turned, cupping his jaw. We found our place. No, he corrected gently, kissing her forehead. We built it. The tunnels were destroyed, but their love forged in danger, silence, and forbidden passion became a legend whispered for centuries. The lovers who survived the underground, the knight and noblewoman who defied a kingdom, the two hearts that burned brighter than the torches beneath the castle. Their story didn't end in darkness, but in a sunlight no kingdom could ever take away.